Hi, I'm Kelly Kramer.
And I'm Scott Sipker. Welcome to Northwest Iowa.
And Stone State Park near Sioux City on Iowa Outdoors. Coming up on this episode of Iowa Outdoors, we explore a recreation area where mountain bikers are getting an adrenaline rush on miles of new trails.
We'll meet an Iowan who glides over our state's landscape via a unique powered contraption.
We'll grind the handrails and ramps of Iowa's popular skate parks.
Finally, we'll fly through the Mississippi River treetops at one of Iowa's large-scale zipline courses.
We'll have all that and more.
So sit tight. Iowa Outdoors is about to begin.
Funding for Iowa Outdoors is provided by the Claude P. Small, Catherine Small Cousins, and William Carl Cousins Fund at the Lincoln Way Community Foundation in Clinton County to support nature programming on Iowa Public Television.
Many of Iowa's natural wonders you'll find on IPTV can be found in Iowa Outdoors magazine, the Iowa DNR's premier resource for conservation, education, and recreation activities. Subscription information can be found online at iowadnr.gov.
Tiny openings around your house can let in a lot of cold air. This includes areas where you see light coming in, especially around windows, doors, and outlets. With the heating season approaching, Alliant Energy encourages you to weatherize now to make your home more energy efficient.
Welcome to a very special adventure-themed episode of Iowa Outdoors.
Throughout our first 5 seasons, we've ziplined, biked, and glided across our great state.
And this episode is just a sliver of the outdoor adventure options resting around the corner right here in Iowa.
Warmer weather is a great time to get out and explore Iowa's scenic countryside on 2 wheels. And although most cyclists prefer traditional road bikes on paved surfaces, there is a growing demand for off-road trails in Iowa.
Recently, Whiterock Conservancy near Coon Rapids created a new 13-mile single-track mountain biking trail, creating a new destination for 2-wheel adventure seekers.
See you guys? Go.
Some of the newest mountain biking trails in Iowa wind back and forth through the historic oak savannas and prairie grasses and wildflowers, and zip up and down the hilly terrain carved by glaciers thousands of years ago between the driftless plain and the prairie pothole region. These trails give cyclists a better opportunity to explore the 5,500-acre land trust outside Coon Rapids, gifted to Whiterock Conservancy by the well-known Garst family.
Our mission is to not only protect and preserve this land and restore it to its historic, wild vitality, but also to farm it sustainably as commercial farmers and to demonstrate sustainable agriculture for other farmers in Iowa. And then the last piece, which is very important, is our goal is to open up this landscape to the public. And we've been working on this for years because it's a big piece of land and it's hard to open up access to this wild land. But the building of our trails this year was a really important part of that.
Every weekend since it's been open, I've been here.
And why is that?
Just because I'm having a blast. You can ride for 3 hours here and just hit the trails once, maybe twice. There's a lot here.
There are 13 miles of single-track mountain biking and hiking trails at Whiterock, 6 miles of equestrian and hiking trails, and almost 20 miles of double-track trails for any kind of use, including low-power all-terrain vehicles. 3 more miles of mountain biking trails are planned to be added in 2016.
This is a destination trail system. You drive out here and you can bike the whole weekend if you want. And then maybe float the river one afternoon, So it's a destination, unlike a lot of other trails in the state. There's a lot here, and it's not just biking.
Whiterock Conservancy is the 3rd largest recreation area in Iowa. It's open to everyone like a public park, but it's different because it's a nonprofit.
Whether or not we're successful long-term as a nonprofit providing these services is whether or not enough people feel that they're valuable to actually support us as a nonprofit. And that's the big question.
Whiterock asks trail users to pay a small fee to help defray the cost of maintaining the trails. They also rent mountain bikes and helmets if you want to give it a try and don't have your own. The Whiterock staff wants to try grooming the trails this winter so bikers can ride year-round.
Great activity. It's fun. It's adventuresome. You get your adrenaline rush while you're burning calories. So, what's not to like? The other thing is that, you know, I can go out hiking or do a little jogging, and the next day I'll have pains and I'll be sore. But on a bike, I'm not sore the next day. I'm tired the next day, but I'm not sore.
This type of trail is designed to be both environmentally and economically sustainable. They're not very expensive to build, and they're easy to maintain. But even though it may look like a simple, worn dirt path, there's science and innovation behind the trail design.
These trails are bench cut into the sides of slopes. Bench cut is just a little notch cut out of the side of the hill, about 3 feet wide, and with a little 5% slope left, so the water will sheet off. And then also, pretty frequently, there's something called a grade reversal, where the trail purposefully dips. And then the trick is to build these slopes and these grade reversals in a way that it's a lot of fun to ride. So the grade reversal ends up being a dip, followed by a rise. And then, of course, the trail's undulating along the slopes. So that's how you get the roller coaster effect.
And I'm sort of a transplant from the West. I've lived in Utah and Nevada, so really was into mountain biking out there. So I was super excited to get out and try these trails. This is great single track out here. Really surprising to me for Iowa, you know, that you can get some nice trails like this in some nice hilly terrain instead of just the typical flat rolling hills that you have as you're road biking through the cornfields or whatever.
There are opportunities for all skill levels. Many trails at Whiterock Conservancy are considered intermediate, mostly because of length.
The hills were tough at first. Some of the hills I would stop going up them just to catch my breath. Now I just climb right up them. You catch on quick.
Here you've got twists and turns and roots and rocks and everything that you kind of got to be looking out for. So, you know, a lot more ups and downs. You can get going a little faster on the downhills and it's a little more technical. So I enjoy that challenge.
It's much more technical riding than road bike. And you really got to be on your game all the time watching those ruts. And it's so much different than just sitting back and just pumping out miles. So I like all the variety that Iowa has for biking, and this is really nice.
Mountain biking tests your physical and mental toughness. And at a place like Whiterock Conservancy, you can enjoy the sport while also discovering some of the history and beauty of the Iowa outdoors. From some vantage points here in the Loess Hills, one can get a bird's eye view of the surrounding countryside. But it pales in comparison to the view achieved via an extremely large fan, a parachute, and a whole lot of courage. It's the epitome of an airborne Iowa adventure.
In rural Madison County, the hum of a distant motor may not be a combine in the midst of autumn harvest. The growing buzz can envelop a valley alongside the Middle River, and once it descends below the horizon, a unique image suddenly appears. A young man floating underneath an expansive parachute with a massive fan strapped to his back. This is Jason Jasnos, a longtime skydiver who discovered the wide open expanses of Iowa were perfect for a burgeoning aerial endeavor known as power paragliding.
Know your comfort zone. Know where you are, comfortable enough to fly. I have a lot higher of a comfort zone than you probably might. I'll fly in a little bit more turbulence than you might. It takes years of getting comfortable with that feeling of being in turbulence, knowing how to handle it, and just enjoying the flight regardless.
Flying alongside Jason is a visual feast, particularly in the midst of fall color. The California transplant hugs the tree-lined valleys, flies only feet above countless golden acres of corn, and provides a bird's-eye view of Madison County's famous covered bridges. Strapped with multiple cameras on board, Jason's images are one of a kind, but his long-tailored abilities are what keep him safe. And hugging the surface of the earth in a powered paraglider has its dangers.
That's the danger zone when you fly low, okay? But when I'm flying low, I'm constantly aware of where the winds are and my relationship to objects with that wind. Okay, so that keeps me out of a lot of trouble.
Jason is a thrill seeker turned teacher. His launching pad at the Winterset Airport serves double duty as a training ground for prospective clients, each hoping to fly over the Iowa countryside.
When I saw Jason flying around, and I'd watching him coming in for landings or just taking off. Any days when we'd be on the ground, we couldn't skydive because of clouds or winds. He could be out flying.
A young skydiver like Jason Glaza was lured to Iowa PPG by witnessing seemingly effortless flight with a powerful motor at your back.
Once you get control of the wing, just keep controlling it, and then when I tell you to turn, go ahead and turn.
But for potential paragliders, weeks of tedious training begins with chute control, especially at takeoff. Powered gliders must have expert control of their parachute. Their hands not only control the direction and rate of descent, but the acceleration of their propeller. It's a balance that takes practice, and more practice.
Keep driving until the lines come up over your head. At that point, you can let go of the A's, and your back should be as straight as possible at this point.
While PPG is an under-the-radar extreme sport in Iowa, it does fall under federal regulation.
It's an experimental aircraft, so the FAA has regulations, what we can fly, where and when, and you follow those regulations and you go through proper training, and I'd say it's absolutely safe.
When we met Glaza, he had spent weeks honing his skills on the ground.
This cost $7,719.
The Iowa school teacher hoped a calm autumn evening would be perfect for his first flight.
He is doing great. He's a ace student. I like his ambition. He's very motivated, and that's what it takes. It takes a certain amount of gumption to really, make this thing happen. So,
with his own teacher Jason on the ground, coaching his student via radio, Glaza began his first solo flight, drifting above the farm fields near Winterset.
It takes a moment to adjust to that mindset that I'm flying. Yeah, I'm flying. Okay, here we go. And that after that, it's like, wow. You just start soaking it all in, and it becomes a spiritual experience just about. Stay out of the way.
Climbed a little more gradually, not as aggressively, but no, you get a feel for it real quick. It's a blast. Oh, man.
I love watching them fly for the first time. They're just feeling their wings.
The lessons Jasnos gives in Winterset are economical and designed for entry-level beginners, for Iowans hoping to witness the state from a bird's-eye view. Glaza's first flight is one of the reasons Jason Jasnos fostered Iowa PPG into a homegrown business. He wants to share his experiences and the natural beauty of Iowa with everyone.
Beautiful flying, just everywhere. It was just colors and, just butter air, Yeah, I think I might have to take another flight.
Skating was once viewed by park managers as a nuisance, an activity dominated by youthful visitors that often scarred the concrete walkways and stairways of your favorite park.
But over the past 2 decades, a transition has been occurring. Cities have begun embracing this so-called nuisance by creating various skating meccas. And for Iowa youth not necessarily drawn to hiking, camping, or paddling, getting outside to a skate park is a great way to test your limits.
We are fortunate enough to have a lot of skate parks in Iowa. There's been new skate parks popping up all across the state, and it's really from border to border. There's some really state-of-the-art facilities that have been built in the last 10 years. Oskaloosa is one, Davenport's one. But the good thing about Iowa is that small towns have invested in skate parks. That's just a sign that they're recognizing that we are, a demographic that they need to think about when planning parks and recreations budgets.
Make no mistake, Iowa truly has embraced the world of extreme sports through skate parks. From Algona in the north, Centerville in the south, Council Bluffs out west, and many stops between, skaters can easily find an Iowa spot to shred. But today, the park of choice is one of Central Iowa's best in Ames.
What makes the Ames skate park so unique is that it has a lot of obstacles that you don't find at other skate parks. You got some wavy rails, down angle iron ledges that are really long and really nice. It doesn't have the best flow to it, but there's a lot of individual obstacles at this skate park that are really fun.
Bruce and his friends run the popular Iowa-based rollerblading website, iowaconnection.com, a site Bruce has been a part of for years, building a community of inline skaters.
Well, the history of rollerblading is definitely rocky. It was the fastest growing sport in the United States in the 90s. But then, you know, the bottom just completely fell out. Rollerblading got kicked out of the X Games, which was really the low point for rollerblading as a whole. But now we're starting to look at it. Maybe it's a good thing to downsize a little bit, and maybe you get to be more grassroots, and you get to be more about small communities and then grow in a larger community. And the people who are still in it are in it because they really love to rollerblade.
The Iowa Connection crew are quick to take advantage of Iowa's skate parks. And while today there are many places to get out and skate, it hasn't always been so.
Well, I grew up in a pretty closed-off life in small-town Iowa. I lived in early Iowa, which was a town of about 500 people, I would say, maybe even smaller. You know, if you're not familiar with Iowa, most of the roads in small towns are tarred and then filled with rocks. So I couldn't really skate on the street. I moved to Jefferson, and they had a skating rink. I went pretty much every day I was able to go, and blisters on my feet every day. I'm loving it.
For many rollerbladers, the alternative to skate parks is street skating, grinding down the handrails, park benches, and sidewalks. Illegal in some areas, without a skate park, street skating is often the only option.
I prefer street skating, but I didn't grow up with a park. It took me a long time to get to this status that I'm at, just skill-wise, and that's because I didn't have a park, mostly.
And street skating for rollerblading is a huge part of the culture and a huge part of the community. You can be a little bit more expressive with your movements, you can be a little bit more deliberate, you can explore more, and that's really the thing that's appealed to me is we get to see so much of these cities that we go and skate in because we're constantly looking at things in a different light.
Still, for many communities, street skating can be a nuisance, and it seems for Iowa towns the best way to combat it has been to build skate parks.
Well, it was late 2009, and skaters were everywhere, all over town, and Oskaloosa was no different. We wanted to offer something to these kids that have this sport and like this sport, and city officials also got behind it.
Oskaloosa opened its skate park in 2012, and it quickly became a popular place for skaters and kids to spend their time. Beyond that, it has become a focal point of the community with public events built around it.
But we've done a dance here, and we had a DJ, we've had a band here. It's scheduled for August the 1st. We have a lot of visitors come to the park. Pretty much daily we have visitors from other places, Iowa City, Des Moines.
I think skate parks bring a lot of value that people may not even recognize. You know, like, I've been skating for like 22 years. I'm still not very good at it, but you know, it's just something that I found a community in that supported what I was doing. It was very welcoming.
As it stands, communities across Iowa are offering skaters, bladers, scooters, and bikers a plethora of options when it comes to skating. But for Bruce and the Iowa Connection crew, it's not really about the park.
Nice. My favorite thing about going to the skate park is being outside with my friends. And this is a great place to spend time. So the freedom is definitely something that appeals to me. It's really just about a community now.
Finally, let's climb above the Dubuque River Valley for a one-of-a-kind view. A high-speed, tree-lined adventure with a healthy dose of history.
It's where one group of Iowans has used the area's topography to create our state's first full-scale zipline course. Here we go. The hum of Iowans flying through the treetops is now commonplace on the ridgeline of Dubuque.
Ready?
Yep.
All right.
With links varying from 300 to 800 feet, Sky Tours Iowa has created a premier zip course for young and old.
Our only limitations are because this is a gravity zip line, is you can't weigh more than 270 pounds and you can't weigh less than 70 pounds. but any age can come out here and enjoy it. It's designed to be an experience, to have an opportunity to be outside with your friends, your family, and to just enjoy the experience.
The Sky Tour course contains 7 separate zip lines, each one providing a different treetop view of Union Park. The gravity course begins with a pair of simple zips, aptly named Bunny and Rapid Run. Each was designed to ease first-timers into walking off an Iowa slope. Those first steps above the timbered valley build confidence for the most novice visitors, even if their faces don't show it yet. Trails weave the course together, giving guests an outdoor hike to complement the high-speed zips. Next up on the Sky Tour's course is Skyline. A hillside platform seems introductory enough until you begin a 400-foot land-to-tower flight. The destination? Sky Tour's Lookout Tower and its panoramic view of Horseshoe Hollow. The tour's sole tower also begins a trek back in time. The valley below includes relics from the early 1900s and a tale of triumph and tragedy. From farmland to parkland to the Mammoth Theater, this location in the hills above Dubuque serves as an Iowa touchstone. Its story begins more than 120 years ago. In 1891, a Dubuque farmer sold a parcel of his land to a local electric company that would later be known as General Electric, then Union Electric. The company would spend $30,000 to construct the Mammoth Theater in this picturesque valley and claim the venue as the largest west of the Mississippi. The Mammoth Theater allowed people to see and hear musical programs free of charge. For 10 cents per person, a local trolley system shuttled visitors back and forth from downtown Dubuque to Northeast Iowa's premier entertainment destination.
Hold approximately 1,500 viewers of whatever shows they had going on. They had vaudeville, different plays, acts, Guy Lombardo, a lot of big-time bands and that were down here. And it's interesting because the way you see the theater now, you're only seeing half of it. The way it stood when the park was open, it had spanned the valley. And the back side of it, which would have been over on this side, was open. So you could sit on bleachers up on the hillside and view whatever entertainment was inside for free.
Swimming and wading pools lured families to spend fair weather days at what was known as Union Park. The valley was an embodiment of early 1900s idealism, and tragically, the location of shocking heartbreak. On July 9th, 1919, potential rain showers turned into a rapid downpour on the ridgeline above the Mississippi. The Mammoth Theater inadvertently served as a dam, blocking the liquid's dispersion and creating a 20-foot-high wall of water destined for destruction. The valley flooded, some were unable to escape, 5 park visitors perished. In less than 2 hours, nearly 4 inches of rain fell that afternoon in 1919. It was the beginning of the end for Union Park.
People were a little leery about coming back out here then, but a lot of it was attributed to Eagle Point Park opened up, so there was another attraction to go to. The car was more affordable, so people wanted to go to other locations and that.
Hey, feet down, just run up the hill. There you go. The tale of Union Park is perhaps the greatest surprise on the Sky Tour's course. More than a zip line and hiking tour, visitors literally fly over history and a time long forgotten, but still visible to the naked eye.
And that's part of the design of the layout of our zip line, is to be able to identify the artifacts in the park so we can tell the history of this. A fascinating history that was a big part of Dubuque for over 40 years.
Without massive theaters, rainwater can flow naturally through this valley and visitors safely travel with trained zip guides. On Lookout Tower, you'll see the original foundation of Mammoth Theater, 45 feet above the river valley. And with no other option but zipping back to the ridgeline, the course continues. Oh, I did not like that one. The next zips, known as airstrike and ground speed, take visitors deep into the valley timber for lines that hug between the treetops. One last hike to high ground brings the tour to its conclusion. and the longest line of them all. The dual zip line is 800 feet, nearly 3 football fields long, allowing friends to zip side by side across the valley.
It's been great for our community. It's been great for the kids. We've had many opportunities. We're even collaborating with the public school system to bring the kids in here and do some teamwork and just have a good time out here in the park.
It seems there's something for everyone in the treetops above the butte. Action, outdoor exploration, and history for the entire family.
That wraps up this adventure-themed edition of Iowa Outdoors. We encourage you to get outside and explore state parks like Stone State Park here in Sioux City. And if you're planning any outdoor adventures of your own, be sure to check out our extensive video archives of adventures from across Iowa at iptv.org/Iowa Outdoors.
Our 6th season of Iowa Outdoors will continue with monthly installments throughout the fall with stories from every corner of our state. We'll leave you now with some more images of adventurous Iowans exploring the outdoors.
Funding for Iowa Outdoors is provided by the Claude P. Small, Catherine Small Cousins, and William Carl Cousins Fund at the Lincoln Way Community Foundation in Clinton County to support nature programming on Iowa Public Television.
Many of Iowa's natural wonders you'll find on IPTV can be found in Iowa Outdoors magazine, the Iowa DNR's premier resource for conservation, education, and recreation activities. Subscription information can be found online at iowadnr.gov.
Tiny openings around your house can let in a lot of cold air. This includes areas where you see light coming in, especially around windows, doors, and outlets. With the heating season approaching, Alliant Energy encourages you to weatherize now to make your home more energy efficient.